We have a new sponsor and an old friend joining Envy Pillow here, Sierra Sil. With 2 rare patents and a money-back guarantee, Sierra Sil, available at Shoppers Drug Mart, London Drugs, and health food stores, is the natural mineral joint pain remedy you need. Go to sierrasil.com, SIERRASIL.com, and use the code GF for 10% off.
Hello! Thank you for being here. This is episode 5 of Gracefully and Frankly. I'm Lisa Brandt.
Hello! I'm Erin.
Hello!
Sorry, that's from Seinfeld. I'm Erin Davis, and this is Gracefully and Frankly, and we are so happy to have you along. Episode 5.
We are going to talk today about doppelgängers, someone who looks just like you, but isn't in your family that you know of.
Or do you look like somebody famous and you wish they were not a serial killer? You know, stuff like that. That'd be my luck, Lisa. You know, my husband, Rob, is so afraid because he says he has such an average face that if he's ever in one of those lineups you see on Law and Order, he'd be going to jail for life for something he didn't do. So don't be that doppelganger. And we'll talk about that coming up. Also, dry January is over. Are you glad, or is it something you're going to keep going, or was it not even on your radar?
Right. It wasn't on our radar, that's for sure. We would have had to give up water.
No, not the sparkly stuff.
It's Groundhog Day.
It's Groundhog Day. We promise not to sing, I got you. No, I got you, babe. We're not going to sing that. We're going to talk a tiny bit about the Super Bowl, because what we know about it, you could
fit on the head of a pin and have room for the Bible.
Okay, that's random, but sure. And now we know that Lisa uses obscure metaphors. That's okay, too. Plus a whole bunch more. We have a whole pillowcase full of stuff to talk with you about today, and some of it will even make sense. Is that too big a promise to make?
Yes, definitely, yep.
Well, the countdown is on, Lisa. As we say, this is episode 5, and that means that the questions that we are putting in this week's quiz to win one of 5 glorious Envy pillows, the silk and copper top-of-the-line edition, this will have at least 2 of the answers in it. And we're going to be posting the questions on Friday, February 3rd, which is tomorrow. If you're listening as this drops, we're going to post 10 multiple choice questions, which really, going back to high school, was the only kind, right? At least you had a 1 in 3 chance.
1863, 1924, or yes, exactly.
And so it's all stuff we've discussed in our first 5 podcasts, and we're going to be on the honor system here. We're going to ask you not to post any of the answers or ask any of the questions on our Facebook page. Please, please, please. And then we're going to post the questions at Gracefully and Frankly on Facebook, as well as at erindavis.com. And next week, episode 6, we will read those questions live. We will be the game show MCs. Then we close the contest at midnight, the night of February 10th. And then we'll post the answers and the winners' names on February 14th.
Wonderful.
You just have to live in Canada or the continental U.S. That's what our friends at Envy Pillow, Kathy and Kim, who are 2 registered nurses and started this whole thing up because they worked in offices where there were, beauty procedures done, like injections and little nips, tucks, and all those things. And they thought, you know what? We need something to help people not only to recover after their procedures and surgeries, but so they don't need them.
Right. No face smushing. That's the idea, right?
Smushing. Yes. Yeah. And smooshing. Both.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So you can go to envypillow.com to learn more about their products. There are all kinds, and be sure and use our promo GF and you will get 10% off your purchase. Okay. So happy Groundhog Day.
Oh, same to you. Happy Groundhog Day.
And happy Groundhog Day.
Exactly. Happy Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
You have to be a fan of the movie, of course.
Oh,
but
God.
Who isn't?
Me, kinda.
Really?
I love Andy McDowell, but I'm not a big fan of Bill Murray, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Of course you are.
The cranky, crusty guy he plays, I think that is Bill Murray. And for my money, I'd rather have somebody that I'd like to have over for dinner as somebody that I like in a movie. I'd like to have George Clooney over for breakfast. But anyway,
Oh, yes. Breakfast in bed, perhaps, yes?
Yeah, perhaps.
I'm not a big fan of Andy McDowell, but that's just, just one of those things. It's just like you just gravitate to some actors and some you don't. But Bill Murray, I think you're bang on. I think there was a lot of hiding of his behavior. People just sort of thought, we're not going to talk about that. We'll put up with him because the general public likes him, because the stuff that's come out about him, he does seem like quite the jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of the opposite of the way a lot of actors who turn out to be jerks. He was nice to the public and not very nice to his coworkers by the sounds of things.
Yeah, it does sound like that. And I was just reading Sicker in the Head, the Judd Apatow book. It's a follow-up to Sick in the Head. He interviews all sorts of comics. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was Will Ferrell got a call from Bill Murray and just said, you should do this. And he's like, oh, I should. And it's like, yeah, whatever. And hangs up, He's still calling Saturday Night Live, trying to call the shots. So,
oh, geez. Well, with this being February 2nd, which is a day of, does the groundhog see his shadow, yada, yada, yada. Doppelgängers. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's when you have a twin who looks just like you, but you're not at all related. And you brought this up with me before we even started this podcast and said, have you ever had a doppelganger? I have a little story, a couple of them actually, but since you brought it up, you go first.
Well, there's a story in one of the New York papers about a cop and another guy who look exactly alike. And if you see their photos, they should be twins. So they both went and got their DNA done, and they have no common ancestors, none. Which is what made me think back to the time that I was living in Hamilton and I was going to the dry cleaner on the corner, and they kept messing up my order. They kept giving me someone else's clothes and giving my clothes to someone else. And I didn't quite understand it, but it always got sorted out. They were very convenient. And as I was walking out one day, having just had this happen, it was like walking into a mirror. There was a woman walking toward me who looked exactly like me. And she was the one who was getting my clothes and I was getting hers. And she was in a hurry. We had this brief chat. She wasn't as freaked out as I was. I was gobsmacked. It was unbelievable. And my first thought was, well, Dad traveled. But then, so I did wonder, because she got away. She really didn't seem that interested. I could have taken her home for coffee and talked to her about her history, but she wasn't as interested as I was. And I always wondered if somehow we were related. And after seeing this story, I wonder if maybe it was just one of those things where everybody has a twin somewhere and it doesn't mean you're related, right?
Wow. I wonder what she thought if she ever drove into Toronto and saw you on the 680 News billboards with Paul Cook. Or if any of her friends, right?
Or rode the GO train and saw the poster or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, but she didn't seem to really care. I was just fascinated. It took me by surprise. But it sure explained the dry clean mix-up, that's for sure.
Yeah, or you could have pulled a total Angela Lansbury or, I don't know, Olivia Benson and looked for one of her hairs on one of those jackets and taken it in for DNA.
Well, now after this story of the cop in New York, I figure it might have been a waste of time. It sort of changed my mind about it because I've always thought of her as like sort of the one that got away in a weird way, if only I'd been a little bit more tenacious and scraped under her fingernail. No, that's forensics. But.
That's the tenacious forensics coming up on A&E. Yeah. Me, I like the procrastinating psychic where you just come and make predictions about things that have already happened. But that's a whole other show. We'll do that podcast another day.
What about you?
So I have a couple of thoughts about doppelgangers. There was a woman who lived in Oshawa or Ajax, and people would say to me, oh, there's this woman and she looks just like you. And then she got in touch and sent me a picture, and darn it, I couldn't see it, but other people saw it. So it must have been in her mannerisms or something like that. Huh. But there's another woman here in Sydney who I met through our 98-year-old friend. She says 98. She's half a year from there, but she's rounding up through our friend Mira. And she looks so much like my mother, I had to take a picture. And you've got to be careful what you say to people you think resemble other people, because I have another cautionary tale. In this case, I would say, and I said it to Rob too, I'd say, look, look how much Rosemary looks like my mother. And of course, Rosemary's like 10 years older than me and not 30 years older.
Right.
So she might take offense to that.
Mm.
God, she looked like my mother. The other story, though, is my husband's sister, our sister-in-law, my sister-in-law. I told her once that I thought she looked like Jane Curtin, also from Saturday Night Live, way back in the starter cast.
Yeah.
And she was offended.
Oh.
And I thought, so here's a lesson. If you think someone looks like someone, make sure it's, someone that they think is attractive or they might be offended.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. There was a server at a restaurant. We went out for dinner with friends a couple weeks ago, and I thought she looked amazingly like Alicia Cuthbert.
Right.
You know, that beautiful Canadian actress. She's in her 30s now. She's married to a hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, has anybody ever told you look like this actress? And she's like, I don't know who that is, but I hear Sandra Bullock a lot.
Ah.
And I saw no Sandra Bullock. So I pull up a picture of Alicia Cuthbert and show it to her. And she's like, meh. I'm thinking this is like one of the most beautiful women, like independent of my opinion.
Right.
Guys go bananas over her. And she was like, meh, I'll go with Sandra Bullock. I'm okay, fine, whatever.
Okay, what celebrity have you been told you look like? I've been told, just on, must have been a really good day, Jamie Lee Curtis. Not at all. Okay, I fess up to that. I would love to, but no. And my first radio partner, my longtime radio partner, Don Daynard, said, oh, you're going to look like Angela Lansbury.
What?
He thought I looked like Angela Lansbury. And I said,
disagree.
Hair as old as time.
Mine's kind of obscure. I don't think I look like anybody super famous. In fact, the person who said I looked like this person was this person. Her name is Kathy Mattea. She's a country singer, and I interviewed her in Nashville, and she was like, oh, yeah. You know we look alike, right? I guess so, yeah. And then I heard other people say that later, but
wow.
18 Wheels and a Dozen Roses, I think, was her big single back in the day. But anyway, that's as close as I've come to celebrity. Yeah.
Well, okay. You're more of a motorhead than I. I'll take the roses. You take the wheels.
Okay.
80 for Brady is opening tomorrow, and I want to see it. I want to see it with you. Do you not miss the theater experience, especially for a comedy where everybody's laughing together?
Totally. Absolutely. My husband completely disagrees, though. He doesn't miss it whatsoever. He's like, can we see it on the TV in the comfort of my chair? Then I'll watch it. He doesn't. Yeah, he does. Why do we always imitate our husbands like, hey, Vegas never met. Like they're.
I know. It sounds like we're married to complete idiots. It's like I'll say to Rob, oh, you do the laundry then. And he says, I don't sound like, do I sound like that? I said, yes, in my head you do. We imitate our spouses or our partners that way, or our bosses. Oh, I don't think you should be going for another week off. They never sound like that.
Have you ever heard Rob imitate you? I never have, but I've heard my husband has imitated me, and it's always me, like Beaker from the Muppets.
Oh, my God.
Anyway,
if Rob imitated me, I'm afraid that we'd be holding a really nice celebration of life. So, okay. I know he does it. He just does it behind my back instead of front of my nose. Okay, so 80 for Brady, back at theaters. I'm going to wait until we're together later this month, and hopefully a bunch of us can get together and, eat popcorn through our masks or whatever and watch it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Wouldn't it?
I'd love it. Yeah.
Now, I couldn't care less about football. I wouldn't watch Tom Brady if he was dancing for dollars in my living room. I couldn't care less. But he's apparently one of the producers of this movie with Jane Fonda. And you know what? It's nice to have a movie that doesn't have a bunch of superheroes unless their magic undergarments are Spanx. And I think it's just great. So, yay.
Well, can you imagine somebody going in to pitch a movie and saying, we've got 4 women over 80? Be like, stop, get out, So it's amazing that it's getting made. I mean, obviously, Tom Brady is a big part of it, but these are all incredible women. And I'm just tickled for them that they have this form.
And Billy Porter. I've seen Billy Porter in it too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it should be good. It should be good. Super Bowl is Sunday, February 12th. You know what? I used to have to watch it so we could talk about it on the air the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it may be the one football game that's ever on in our house. But no, it's only about the halftime show. So
Rihanna this
Yep.
time, and my husband's a big NFL fan, so we do have the games on. And every once in a while I look up and he'll say, "Oh, I really hope so-and-so wins." And I'll say, "Who's the quarterback?" If I know the quarterback's name, I might get
Yeah.
interested. Otherwise, forget it. It's, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's just noise in the background.
I was rooting for Buffalo, obvious reasons. You love that kind of story of a comeback and the whole spirit of getting through, a near-death tragedy like that. But other than that, I'm over it. And it does look like your idea last week that the M&Ms thing was just all a big PR thing may well have been true. We'll have to see. We'd have to care. My question to you was Tucker Carlson duped, or was he in on it? On this whole M&M.
I think he was duped. I don't think he's smart enough to be in on it.
Well, I mean, you're right. If you gave him a penny for his thoughts, he'd owe you change.
Right.
So I think you're right.
Yeah.
So talking about the Super Bowl very briefly, and Derek sitting there in his chair.
Yes, he is.
Oh my God, we're going to hear from him. And you live with him, so good luck with that, Lisa. I was just going along with it in an improv kind of way.
Right.
All right. So one of the biggest drinking days of the year, of course, is Super Bowl Sunday. But there's been a lot of talk about alcohol, how much we're drinking, and something called Dry January, which comes on the heels of a very wet December for a lot of people. What are your thoughts?
Dry January was never a thing back in my drinking days. If it was, maybe I was drinking and didn't hear about it. But It's kind of neat that people take a break. But I've seen a lot of people on Facebook talking about it and posting about it. And a friend of mine actually has decided to quit drinking altogether. She's felt so good without it and has noticed things about herself, clarity of mind, a few different things that she wants to improve. And so she's decided she's going to quit drinking. All on her own, which is really the only way. If you want someone to quit drinking and you're pushing them to do it, it's not going to work. I can tell you that from experience. They have to come to that decision on their own. So it's kind of fascinating. She's found this book by this amazing woman called Annie Grace, who used to be a so-called problem drinker, and she helps other people. The book is called The Naked Mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what worked for her, right? And I mean, people come to non-drinking if that's what they want to do, many, many different ways. I was just sick of myself. That's the way I came to it.
You sent me to thisnakedmind.com, and it really is a neat website. And, full disclosure, people who have read my book or know anything about me know that I went into rehab for 6 weeks, 3.5 years ago. Because I'd had 10 years sobriety, and then not when Lauren, our daughter, died, but when I was done with the responsibilities of radio, when I was done with my job, all of a sudden life was going to be one big March break in Panama City Beach. And so I decided I was going to pick up where I left off. And boy, howdy did I. And that's the thing that I found so interesting about addiction. And I think Matthew Perry talked about this in his book and in all the interviews that he did, was you think that even after 10 years, if you start again, it's like starting over. No, your addiction has kept going at the same trajectory it was on when you quit.
Right.
And guess what? You're just catching the funicular higher up the mountain.
Matthew Perry said, how does it go while you're battling?
While you're doing victory laps.
Right. Your addiction's doing push-ups in the parking lot.
Yep.
And it's absolutely true. And I've seen so many people, they'll quit. They want to quit so desperately, and they'll quit for a year and then start drinking again. And I mean, their family it's heartbreaking. But our job as people who aren't drinking and want to be supportive is to focus on the fact that they're trying again, not the fact that they didn't get it the first time. And the fact that they've come back and they're trying again is a big deal. And usually they make it, but it sure can be a heartbreaking procedure to go through. And I didn't obviously go to rehab, but I can only imagine how intense that is. I mean, you live there, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful and awful. The sleeping arrangements. I didn't expect a 5-star hotel. This was not going to be a spa. I knew that. But, you're in a dorm room, and it's to me, as the introvert, it was very intimidating because I was around people that I was trying to make like me, and they were already fighting their own battles, and they had a hate on for a lot of different things and different reasons. There were people who had been brought back to life 2 and 3 times by Narcan. There were people who, if they didn't stop drinking, were going to go to jail, and on and on and on. And I had checked myself in. I was there because I wanted to be there. And you really get a respect and an understanding for, first off, how many different people, different walks of life face addiction. A lot of them were there because the government was paying for it, thank God, but they had been waiting so long, and the number of people who die waiting to get into rehab is it's so awful in this country. It's so awful.
It's such a precarious place to be, too, when you're just starting to get through the worst of maybe withdrawal or whatever it is you're going through. And you only have today, and sometimes just focus on today and focus even just on the next hour. Because, my girlfriend, for example, who is quitting, is saying, well, what am I going to do in the summer?
Right.
It's like, you know what? And that's natural. That's absolutely natural. But you've got to and it's kind of stoicism again. You bring yourself back to the present moment and go, all I've got is right now. I choose not to drink right now, or not smoke or not eat cheesecake, but we're talking about drinking. And that's all you got. So you control that moment, and next thing you know, it's the next moment and the next moment. And the next summer will take care of itself. That's for future Lisa or future whoever.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it really does go back to the serenity prayer, change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, which also comes back to stoicism. By the way, we're going to be talking about Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving It
rhymes with truck. Yeah.
Yes. And although a lot of people on our Facebook page were offended even by the book cover, and that is the literal example of judging a book by its cover, there's so much in it. And I think we might start up a book club just to do online. Maybe we'll do a Facebook Live in March or something. But just so you know, if you've got Mark Manson's book, and you'll know you do because of the bright orange cover, dig it out, give it a look, and we'd love to hear your opinion on it. Because again, it is about, I understand because I'm saving it for my vacation, but it is about just living in the moment and not worrying about the things you cannot possibly change.
Yeah, that was my mom's big thing. My mom was in a constant state of worry and anxiety, and I don't judge anybody ever I have got my own issues with anxiety, right?
Yeah.
But it's a constant battle to battle it back. And that book, some people say it's repetitive. Well, every self-help book gets kind of repetitive. You need things repeated to you to drill it into your head. But he wouldn't be the force of nature he is now without his ability to get these things through to people. And I found the book brilliant. Yeah, okay, the F word in the orange cover grabbed your eye, but that doesn't bother me. Words, it's all context, right?
You don't give a what, Lisa? I'm sorry, what was that? What?
It's not Little House on the effing Prairie or something, like it's not out of context with what it is he's talking about.
Yeah.
To me, it's not gratuitous. It's part of the mission, but you have to read the book, so.
Yeah, but some people think that it is gratuitous. As somebody posted on Facebook, there are 9,700 adjectives in the dictionary. Yeah, but sometimes only one word fits. Then I got to tell you a brief story before we move off Mark Manson and the subtle art of ... Look it up if you want to join us for our book club in March, which I guess we're doing now because here I am blurting it.
Oh, and it's March, is it? Okay, great.
Yeah, yes. I have to get my book club dress. My parents came to Toronto from Kelowna, and I thought, I'm going to show them a great time. So we went to the Princess of Wales Theatre and saw The Sound of Music, which was great. They did a great job of that. The next night, I took them up to North York for Jersey Boys.
Oh.
And I said to them before, and this is my dad. I mean, he was an airline pilot. There were people around him who swore, but they called him Father Don for a reason, I guess. And my mom knew her way around words, but didn't use them around us, certainly. But I said to them, okay, listen, you're going to hear the F word a lot. It's just a word, okay? This isn't called the Choir Boys. It's called Jersey Boys. Exactly. What do you want? Gabagool. So just enjoy the show, forget the word, and they did. They loved the harmonies, the performances. Don't let something as small as a word get in the way. We love to stumble on a pebble on a road that's on its way to Oz. I don't know, that's a stupid metaphor, but you know what I mean?
No, it's not stupid. I get it. Yeah. You're right. It's just, and again, it's context. I mean, you're not going to expect the Jersey Boys to go, oh, yeah, you don't give a care. You know,
right.
it's going to be those salty words. So, and if it's going to bother you that much, don't go to the show.
Right.
I'm glad your parents got over it. That was a great show.
It was. I must have seen it 4 or 5 times. I even got a chance to interview Frankie Valli and the creator of the show, Bob Gaudio.
And did Frankie Valli hit on you? Oh, no, you were too old for him. That's
no,
right.
He didn't. But, you know, he has a fusion of the bones in his ear.
Oh.
So when you see Frankie out on tour, he is singing with auto-tune because he's very hard of hearing. It's, I believe, the same thing that happened to Huey Lewis.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot more empathy. That's why he needs those younger women then to read to him and things. I get it now.
Finally, we raise our glasses or our mugs. Here's my mug right here.
Yeah.
To Hazel McCallion.
Oh, yeah. What an amazing woman.
Yep, almost 102. And honestly, when I saw her trending on Sunday, I thought, oh, it's because of the Greenbelt thing that Doug Ford has got her signed up to oversee. But no, she'd been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer earlier this year and just said, I guess this is my time. And off she went. But really, she wasn't so much ahead of her time, I think, as just in time. She grabbed power by the reins in the late 70s. She said in the late 60s she was trying to get on a board, and she felt like it was the women who kept her down. But by the late 70s, it was the women who were pushing her forward. So that's what a difference a decade makes, right?
I love some of the stories about her. When I was at 680 News in Toronto talking about some of the things like, I mean, she was still driving then. She refused to give up her license until not that many years ago, right? There comes a time when you need to stop driving, and those signals were loud and clear for Hazel McCallion. Later than for most people, that's for sure. They have to have that discussion earlier in life, but she was just such a hurricane, yes, but I think in the kindest way, bulldog. You couldn't push her down, right?
Absolutely. And do you know that she said one of the secrets to her longevity, besides being, active, even roller skating into her 90s, good God, and being a pro hockey player in the 40s, one of her secrets was tart cherry juice. And I was looking this up after she died because I remembered that's what she said was her secret. And I might just go for it, Lisa. My goodness, if she can keep going at 102, almost. And she liked her cocktails, kind of like the Queen Mom. Geez, maybe we're taking this not drinking thing all the wrong way. Do you ever think that it's a preservative?
A couple of shots a day, maybe, or something like that?
No, it's a week now. It's a week now.
That's right.
Yes.
It's way down now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was 10 drinks a week for women, 15 for men. You know what? It's the whole, what's a drink? If I pour myself a 16-ounce glass of wine, is that a drink? No, they're measuring those little plastic ones that you get at wedding receptions.
That's right. So that's the new guidelines from Health Canada?
Well, it's a study, it's suggestions, but oh my gosh, the hate online.
People like their beer. They like their drinks.
Course.
They don't want to be told it's not good for them. Yeah.
But that's the thing. People are saying, what right do you have to... Sorry, I'm sounding like angry Derek in his chair. Sorry, Derek.
What right do you have to tell me what to drink?
To tell me how much I should drink in the comfort of my own cupboard under the sink. No, that's what they're saying. And it's like, no, nobody's trying to take away your bottle of vodka or whatever. These are just guidelines. And there are 7 types of cancer that are caused by alcohol. It is a carcinogen. And you know what? Maybe do put the labels on the bottle just to remind people. I know that those pictures, those really gross pictures on cigarette packs helped me to quit. I know they did.
Yeah, I believe it. And people act as if somebody is throwing a balaclava on and breaking into their house and going for their liquor cabinet.
Exactly. Coming for your guns. Oh, my God.
Just because they're sharing information. Oh, my goodness. It's very sad.
Yeah.
But now they've just really lowered the recommended limit. Drink what you want.
And you want to know a handy tip? When you tell your doctor what you drink, he or she automatically doubles it in their mind. Wow. There you go. Yeah.
Did not know that.
Thankfully, they don't do that with our weight. That's why they have scales. I'm sorry, you're actually. Anyway, this has been fun, madame. Shall we do it again next week?
Yes, we shall. Absolutely. And, we're closing in on Valentine's Day, right?
Next
week.
We are. Big, hairy deal. But I want to talk about friendship next week. What do you think?
Okay.
All right. Hey, and don't forget, our contest questions are going live tomorrow, and that's February 3rd if you're listening to this out of sequence. And sorry if you've missed the February 10th closing. We will be announcing from 5 of the emails that we get that have all the right answers. We will be announcing the winners on Valentine's Day right on our Gracefully and Frankly Facebook page and at erindavis.com. Residents only of the continental U.S. and Canada. And there you go.
And when you said big hairy deal about Valentine's Day, I feel the same way about Groundhog Day. There's a radio station in London here, FM 96. They're using a dog as their groundhog.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, so do I, but it's kind of disrespectful to the groundhog, which I think is appropriate.
Well, it's just also stupid, but look, it's February.
That's right. Very good point.
Thanks for letting us keep you company, and we'll talk to you again soon. I'm Erin Davis.
I'm Lisa Brandt. Bye-bye.